Welcome to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, mindset coach and imposter syndrome expert, and I'm here to tell you that imposter syndrome isn't a life sentence. It's just a dysfunctional way of thinking. If you feel like your ideas are unoriginal, that your message isn't necessary or important, or like you're a complete and total fraud, then you've come to the right place. Time to kick your inner imposter to the curb and create life-changing results for you and your clients. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the From Imposter to Empower podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, business mindset coach and imposter syndrome expert. And if you are interested in taking your coaching business or your business as a service provider to six figures and beyond, then private coaching might be for you. So in private coaching, we address all those things that are coming up as you become a six-figure business owner. Beliefs around money, beliefs around yourself, beliefs around the industry that you're working in. Is this sustainable? Is this something that I can take full time? Is this going to be able to support my family? What worthiness things are coming up around making this kind of money online? There are so many thoughts and beliefs that happen as you're scaling your business, and if you're not careful, a lot of those things can really impact your ability to scale. And a lot of it is around fear of success, fear of it all coming down, all of those things. And I find that private coaching is just such an amazing container to fully have that freedom to be yourself, to make the time all about you and your beliefs and your thoughts and your business. And my clients are just so transformed by this container. And what happens is you'll go to the link in my show notes and you'll book a sales call. We'll see if it's a good fit. And then you and I will get on a 2-hour intensive where we basically map out what the main things are that you want to work on during our time together, what really deep-rooted things you want to pull up and replant, the goals that you have for yourself over our 6 months of working together. And then we get to work. We meet 3 times a month. You have 24/7 access to me via Voxer, and you also get lifetime access to my passive product suite, which includes the From Imposter to Empowered course, the Perfect Launch Vault, all those amazing things. So if you are feeling called, if you want to scale your business into multiple six figures and beyond, then you can go to the link in my show notes and book a sales call with me. So let's talk today about towards and away motivation. And before I get into that, before you're like, wait, what? This episode is about towards and away motivation. What spurred this idea for this episode was the fact that I am somebody who perpetually has a mean inner critic. And I know that you're rolling your eyes thinking, well, duh, Jill, like we all do. That's why I'm here, because I have an inner imposter that just won't quit. But it was really founded on the belief of that if I was nice to myself, I wouldn't get anything done. And I know that this is something that so many people in my audience relate to, because for the longest time, I would hear from my therapist or hear from my coach that, well, you're just being so mean to yourself, you're being so hard on yourself, you have all these expectations. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I could never really get to the root of it. And the awareness that came from a lot of inner work, especially with my inner child, was that I was afraid that I would lose momentum if I finally felt good enough, if I finally felt worthy. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks, because I was like, oh, that's why I shy away from mirror work. That's why I have such a hard time fully accepting myself and my flaws. That's why I'm so hard on myself when I make a mistake. I'm afraid that if I get too complacent, I am going to lose momentum. I'm going to be lazy. I'm not going to be productive enough. And what that's really rooted in is what we know in neuro-linguistic programming as towards and away motivation. We make decisions based on this framework, based on the towards and away motivators. And the human brain is so used to making decisions and setting goals from the place of away motivation. Away motivation means that you are avoiding something. So, for example, you might work a 9-to-5 that you fucking hate, and you might be driving home from work every day exhausted and be like, oh my God, I hate this job so much. But you stay there despite the fact that there is this online business that you're trying to think of and that you're working on and everything, because you want to make sure that you have money so you don't get evicted from your home. That would be an away motivator. Away motivation is rooted in the fact that you are trying to avoid something. You are trying to avoid a feeling. You are trying to avoid a circumstance. It's really rooted in protection of oneself. And as we know, the brain's main focus is to keep us safe because we are still extremely primal when it comes to the way that our brain functions. It is constantly estimating the risk that is out there. So we are constantly looking at all the factors in the world, looking at everything that's happening around us and estimating the risk that we could get hurt, or we could get hurt emotionally, or something could feel uncomfortable. That's essentially what anxiety is as well. If you experience anxiety, it's heightened, it's extremely heightened. And that is usually how we look at things. When we set goals, so for example, some people would set a goal like, I want to make $30,000. But what's your reasoning for that goal? Your reasoning for that goal could be, it's because I need to pay off my debt. That would be an away motivator, because it's not necessarily something that you're excited about. It's more so you want to pay off the debt so it doesn't have to be a problem anymore. But then we look at towards motivation, something that people aren't really used to focusing on. And towards motivation is when the thing that you're working towards is like joyful and exciting and something that you desire instead of something that you are trying to avoid. So maybe the goal to make $30,000 is so you can have more freedom when it comes to your travel schedule, or so you can pay off the debt so you can buy a house. At the root of it, we are looking at what you want to experience instead of what you're trying to not experience. So you might say, I want to leave my 9 to 5, but your primary reasoning could be because I don't want to be restricted by a boss or somebody telling me what to do. That would be an away motivator. You're trying to get away from the restriction versus I want to be my own boss and I want to dictate my time and have freedom. That would be a towards motivator because we're working towards desire. So when we're thinking about this thought of if you're afraid that you're going to lose momentum, or that you're going to slow down, or that things aren't going to be as productive if you're nice to yourself, we just have to redefine what exactly motivates you. And this was a really big revelation for me when I was finding that the majority of the things that I was like working towards or what I told myself were away motivators. Instead, I never really harnessed the skill of working on what I desire. And that is just like the key thing when it comes to manifestation and when it comes to creating the thoughts that we want to work towards the things that we want in life. I feel like society, our educational system, even our families that grew up in a different generation than us, we're focused on surviving. We're focused on surviving and, like not getting sick and a lot of other things, like even, for example, working out so you don't gain weight. That for me was always like the option. But instead it was like, how about I work out so I feel good in my body, so I have more mobility? I never even considered those things. Instead, it was just an away motivator so I don't gain weight. But after a while, away motivation is not that inspiring. It actually can feel like you're just constantly doing task after task because you have to. And instead, we need to learn how to cultivate a mindset where we're actually creating our reality instead of creating something that will help us get away from our current reality. Does that make sense? I feel like this is something that is so small, but is so tangible in terms of a shift of thinking. In terms of when I'm asking my clients, what do you want to create? Sometimes their initial thoughts are, well, I don't want this to happen. Like, I don't want to fall on my face in front of everybody. I don't want them to see me fail. I don't want to end up with all these clients who are terrible. So instead, they're like, again, leaning towards what they don't want to happen. So I ask them again, I'm like, but what do you want to create? And sometimes people have such a block where they're like, I don't know. It's kind of like when you become an adult and you realize like you don't have any hobbies. You're just like, what do I like to do? Because we're so used to focusing on the things that we think we have to do. We're so used to focusing on our tasks and our productivity and achieving that we don't really think about, but what am I doing all of this for? Like, what am I working towards? And sometimes towards motivation can feel kind of fluffy and kind of indulgent because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I come from a place and a world and a line of thinking where just like mindset and belief work and somatic work like healing and Reiki and breath work and all of these things is like indulgent. But when we really think about it, what's the whole point of being on the spinning fucking rock? Like, what is our whole point to being here? I think about that when it comes to my business, and whenever I start to feel like I'm being really hard on myself when it comes to like running this business and not working a typical 9 to 5 and all that stuff, or leaving my job even with the government, I think about the fact that like the whole point that I'm here though is to enjoy my life. And if this job is helping me make money so I can enjoy my life, then that is a good enough purpose. And the same thing goes with helping people. Like if helping people helps change their life and then they create a ripple effect with their clients, like that's changing the world, even if some people believe that it's not. But maybe that's just because they're very away motivated. And again, like this is such a simple shift when you're thinking about your goals. This is such a simple shift when you're thinking about how you talk to yourself or how you're motivated. And really stop to think about this right now in terms of why are you motivated to achieve the things that are on your goal list. And if you actually start to write them down, notice if you're using words like don't or not, like kind of more negative words, or notice if it's to avoid something else. And then how can you change the language and how can you actually look at those things differently in terms of what are you working towards in terms of desire, in terms of joy, in terms of peace and calm and actually enjoying your life. That is the whole point of why you're here listening to this podcast. That is the whole point as to why I show up for my business, because I'm creating my life. I am the creator of my life. Instead of trying to avoid the things that I don't want to happen, I create and I think about what I do want to happen and I focus my energy there. And that really has been a huge shift in setting goals and doing what I want to do. It's still something that I have to constantly remind myself of because I'm just so programmed and conditioned to achieve and to do certain things. But if I really got down to it, I have to think like, am I doing this for somebody else to be like, good job, Jilly? Or am I doing this for me and to enjoy my life? And when I say that, I think like, what's the point? But not in a what's the point, blah, blah, blah type of way. It's more like, what's the point of this? And if the point isn't joy, if the point isn't directed at my mental, emotional, physical well-being, then what is the point? And I have to really reevaluate that goal. Maybe that's why you're not super attached to your goal list. Maybe that's something that you haven't really thought about when it comes to something that you're really trying to achieve, but like you just can't get your ass behind it. You just can't get your belief behind it, or like you just cannot do it. I really want you to look at your reasonings behind it and see if they're more away motivated instead of towards motivated. And to bring it back to the whole point of why I even thought of this podcast episode topic in the first place, is that if you're afraid that you're going to lose momentum if you're nice to yourself, if you feel good enough, this just means that we need to redefine the part of you that finds motivation. We need to redefine that part of you that tells you like, okay, you got to get up and do the task. How can you be more towards motivated? It's kind of like when you're getting up really early for work versus getting up really early to go on vacation. When you get up really early to go to work, you're just like miserable. You're just like, fuck this. Like you're thinking about how you don't want to do it. But when you're getting up early to go on vacation, you're like excited about it. You're jazzed. Feels like a new day. You're awake. You have energy. You feel good. And that is all because of the circumstance that you are creating in your mind and the thoughts that you're having, right? So if you are somebody who has this block, if you are somebody who just realized as you're listening to this, oh my God, yes, I totally do that with regards to, I think that if I feel good enough or if I show myself self-love or compassion, that I am not going to be motivated. We just have to redefine what your areas for motivation look like. How can you inspire yourself into action? How can you motivate yourself into action? How can you redefine your goal list and really look at why you want to achieve those 6 figures or this many clients or this for your business? I want to leave you with the fact that like for a long time I really was beating myself up because I thought that my business had to look a certain way. I thought I had to be like speaking on stages and doing all these really big things, and if I wasn't an Insta famous coach, then what was the point? It's not going to work out for me anyways. But really, I have built a multiple six-figure coaching business just like simply from selling my offers and working with people on Zoom. And I realized that that's what I really wanted to do. Like, I don't need all the big shiny things, and I would beat myself up because I wouldn't be motivated to try and get on stages and do all that extra stuff. But it was because I didn't really want it, because I was more so away motivated when it came to those things. So eventually I just got tired of doing them and tired of pursuing them. But instead, I'm more focused on the freedom that this income gives me, the freedom that I have in working with a number of clients a month, the freedom I have in the safety of my long-term containers, because my group program is lifetime and my private coaching is for 6 months at a time. So like there's so much safety and room to grow in my containers, and the ability for me to get to know my clients on such a deep personal level, that motivates me, that inspires me. I just want you to take a step back and look at your goals and be like, am I doing all of these things because I'm trying to avoid a certain feeling like shame or guilt or fear? Like, are you saying, oh, I'm trying to sign like 10 new clients in the next 2 months because then I can feel like a good coach, and then I don't have to feel fear or feel imposter syndrome or feel negativity, you know? Like, it's pretty easy to pick up on those things when you're looking for them. So yeah, my episode about towards and away motivation. If you are interested in scaling your coaching business or your business as a service provider to multiple six figures and beyond, you can go to the link in my show notes and book a sales call with me, and you can be part of my private coaching container. I only have a couple of spots available, so I will see you there. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Check out the show notes to get started on your free 3-day challenge to overcome your inner imposter. Once you're done listening today, screenshot this episode and share it to your Instagram story, tagging me at YourCoachJill so I can share it on my page. See you next time.